It's time for Phyllis Schlafly. Schlafly born and born to America. It's time for Phyllis. Phyllis is on the air.
Hi, I'm Ed Martin, president of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Today, August 15th, would have been Phyllis Schlafly's 96th birthday. It's her birthday, and as we celebrate right here at the Phyllis Schlafly Center in St. Louis, you know, this is the home of so much. Our archives are kept here. Our Eagle Forum Education and Legal Defense Fund works out of here, and Phyllis had her office here for so many years. You know, Phyllis was an incredibly influential activist. People know that. If you look in here, we're in one of the rooms. It's Phyllis at the White House with Reagan and all these different things. She was also a phenomenal author. She was really a spectacular writer. Some of our interns in the Eagle Forum Education and Legal Defense Fund over this summer, one of them was telling me how she was so inspired by Phyllis as a writer. And Phyllis was also a voice for others. You know, when we see Phyllis's talents in so many ways, gave voice to others, gave them a path forward to make their voice heard. Extraordinary life. And as we celebrate her birthday today, it would have been her 96th birthday, I want to show you some of the sights and sounds of this office, the Phyllis Schlafly Center, where Phyllis worked. So come with me. You know, here in the Phyllis Schlafly Center, we celebrated quite a few of Phyllis's birthdays. She loved nothing more than a good chocolate cake, and we celebrated here. But the main part of this building, the Phyllis Schlafly Center, is Phyllis's office. I want to take you in here and show you some of the extraordinary pieces of her office where so much work happened. Books written, columns written, interviews done. This here, though, Phyllis used to love to point out, these are her battle medals. And actually, after she had passed away, we finally got this redone to add one more, the 2016 RNC convention where she was a delegate. These are the medals that people receive when they go to the convention. It's starting in 1952. Phyllis Schlafly went to every single one of these conventions. There was one or two where she was not present as a participant, but she was playing a big role. But this is an achievement I don't think will ever be met, will ever be even approached. For 70 plus years of her 92 years, she was a national figure playing a role at the convention. She loved to show these medals. And let's come on into the rest of the office here. There's some other little details in here that are really powerful. And of course, this is where so much of her work happened. But over here on this wall is a photograph, Elise O'Neill, who was one of the great Eagle leaders. And by the way, don't be fooled on this kind of plush office. Phyllis Schlafly, she never took a salary for all those years of her work with Eagle Forum and Eagle Forum Educational Legal Defense Fund. She was a volunteer, and she raised the money to put this office together to let lots of Eagles participate, but she wasn't one of the ones that took a salary. This is Elise O'Neill, one of Phyllis's great Eagles, who did so much work for her. Gave Phyllis this tie. It's one of Ronald Reagan's ties, if you can believe it. It's like a MAGA hat these days with President Trump. Phyllis has one of those too. And there's a photograph of Phyllis with Ronald Reagan. In fact, if you'll notice here, this placard, which is from a campaign rally, was the one that was on the podium when Phyllis Schlafly endorsed candidate Donald Trump on March 11th, 2016, downtown in St. Louis in the Peabody Opera House. Pretty extraordinary to see that. Over here also we have a piece of the Berlin Wall. Where did the Berlin Wall? Over here. Sorry, I'm spinning around. I'd want to go back this way for a second. A letter from Margaret Thatcher when Phyllis celebrated her birthday, 80th birthday on August 15th. She got a letter from Margaret Thatcher. In fact, I remember when that came in, we got that framed. Over here was a piece of the Berlin Wall. You know, Phyllis Schlafly, when she began her work so many years ago in the early 1940s, she was focused on the threat of world communism and the Soviet communism. And this was a great achievement for so many people to see the wall fall down. Of course, Phyllis Schlafly didn't pause very long because she had already been talking in the 70s and 80s, even before that, about the threat of Chinese communism and what was happening there. So let's keep going back here. This is her desk, which has a lot of her work on there, and you can still see that. There's a photograph of her and Ed Meese. Back in the far corner, if you can see a little bit, I'll come over here, is a photograph of Phyllis's husband, Fred Schlafly, and some of an award he received. He was a very, very well-regarded attorney. He was one of the authors of some key reports on the ABA, for his work fighting against communism in America. Phyllis was very proud of her books, 27 books that she authored in various forms. You'll see them all here. She also has dozens and dozens of other books that she was included in, that she contributed essays to and was a part of. Now, over here is an extraordinary photograph. I want to see if you can get in there. This is a photograph of Chester, Rear Admiral Chester Ward. And Chester Ward was a very well accomplished Navy man, but he wrote a note here, and I'll see if I can read it. It says, "For Phyllis, our St. Joan of the space age, in appreciation for her wonderful writing and her audience of devoted millions, and for her compassionate sharing of both with me. With love, Chester." This man was a very well-regarded military theorist, and Phyllis wrote a number of books with him, and she amplified his voice in a way that he was recognizing extraordinarily. She and Chester Ward wrote Strike from Space, decades before others were talking about Star Wars and missile defense. It was an extraordinary contribution and a great tribute to her there. This is more of the many awards that she received up here. I'll take this down. This is RNC. The March for Life, the very first time that the Republican National Committee marched at the March for Life, that hat was given, and Phyllis was one of the key people. One of her books is about this, who was working to make sure the platform stayed pro-life in the Republican Party. Again, an extraordinary tribute. I did want to include here, and there's many awards you can pass through, and we often take photographs and show people. This is a bust of Cardinal Mindszenty. Phyllis was one of the, helped found an organization working against communism to protect Hungary, again, behind the Iron Curtain, and there's so many other awards. But also there's the commission. I want to show you on the way, we go this way, I could spend hours talking about Phyllis and her work, but this is a commission by President Ronald Reagan for Phyllis to serve on the Bicentennial of the Constitution Commission. And this was an extraordinary group of people. In fact, Chief Justice Warren Burger retired from the Supreme Court to take over as chairman of this. And in 1987, the celebration of the Bicentennial of the Constitution, there was not just a big event, but a series of educational seminars, conversations over the period of about a year and a half or longer that were highlighting this. Phyllis was so proud to serve on this. Often, in fact, in Mrs. America, the $50 million sort of hit piece that Hollywood did on Phyllis, they tried to depict Phyllis wanting a job or something from Reagan, President Reagan. This is what she was most proud of. She loved our Constitution, believed in the rule of law, and was so proud of this. She made sure this is right on her door as you come in. You see the battle medals and this commission. We've got more to see. Let's head on into the archives. You know, no celebration of Phyllis Schlafly's birthday would be complete without coming down here to the Phyllis Schlafly Archives. The archives at Phyllis Schlafly over her many, many decades, 70 years in public life, but even longer. She accumulated her 92-year lifespan, has so much interesting, important documentation. And over the years, the Phyllis Schlafly Archives, which is right here at the Phyllis Schlafly Center in St. Louis, has become a landing place for other conservatives to send their archives. So it's an extraordinary treasure trove. Every year, we have researchers come from around the world, actually, to be a part of this and come in. So come into the archives. We're here in the basement, and when Phyllis bought this building, there's actually a vault over here where some of the most important documents are kept under lock and key. Here, this is a climate-controlled area of the basement that we're able to keep thousands and thousands of documents and videos and tapes. So come on in. I want to show you one that I dug up for just this reason, to celebrate Phyllis's life and to debunk Mrs. America, which is always fun to do. Come on in here. You'll see here that the archives are in all kinds of forms. You've got written papers. Over here is a different kind of microfiche, all kinds of things. But let me show you one that I wanted to pull here. And I'm going to pull this off here. You know, Mrs. America, one of the things that they did was try to rewrite history. And they rewrote history by listening to people that weren't telling the truth and people that weren't kind of giving it straight. But we have the documentation so often. You know, one of the great debunkings of Mrs. America, they spent $50 million. They paid for the rights to like 3 or 4 or 5 books, and they still were making it up. One of them was the famous debate with Phyllis Schlafly and her husband and the Fastows, and they basically made that up, and we showed how when you watch the actual debate, which we have footage of here in the archives, you see that they're wrong. Well, here's another one. In Mrs. America, they claim that Phyllis was invited along to a meeting of a bunch of the men in the Congress as they were discussing something. Well, it was exactly the opposite. It was actually Phyllis who convened the meeting, called the meeting. And in fact, Congressman Crane, she invited him to the meeting. They made it seem like he was the big shot and he invited her. Here's the documentation from November 9th, 1971. Phyllis confirming with Phil Crane that he could come to the meeting that she had convened and pulled together. And we have more of that documentation here. Look, the important part of what Hollywood did was to try to distort the truth. And what we as conservatives have to do is return both to first principles, but also to the facts. And here at the Phyllis Schlafly Center, we're so grateful to get to the bottom of the facts and have these resources. And for those conservatives that want to learn more about what really has happened and what's at stake, we're always ready to be a resource. People, as I said, come from all over the world and all over the country. A few years ago, we had an expert look at the archives, someone who understands these things, a professional academic. He said it's one of the most extraordinary collections of conservative documentation on the great history of America from the 1940s, early in the 40s, even before, all the way through till today. So we'll look forward to it. Let's head back upstairs. We've got a few more things to discuss as we celebrate the great Phyllis Schlafly's birthday. Today would have been her 96th birthday. What a life she had and what a celebration we all will have too. So come on upstairs. Thank you for stopping by the Phyllis Schlafly Center and taking this brief tour of her office as well as the archives. We have so much here at the center. We're so proud of it, and we're so grateful that you'd celebrate her 96th birthday for a few minutes by looking at all these great documents and great photos and great work of Phyllis Schlafly. You know, we preserve this, and Phyllis built this center, built it up with all these great resources, in part to be a resource to all Americans and all people. In fact, researchers come, I mentioned, from all over the world, and sometimes activists. Not long ago, a couple from Australia came through that had appreciated Phyllis's work. If you're interested in learning more, we love to give tours of our center, and we love to introduce Phyllis and her life and her work to folks. So please contact us. You can contact us directly by emailing Joanna at phyllisschlafly.com, Joanna at phyllisschlafly.com, or you can call us at 314-721-1213. 314-721-1213. If you go to phyllisschlafly.com, you can do something maybe even more meaningful today on Phyllis's birthday. You can sign up to follow her work and our work as we continue this. Because Phyllis didn't want a museum. She didn't want a center to look back. She wanted a center to look forward. And there's a lot of issues that face our families, that face our nation, that face each of us that we can do together. So please go to phyllisschlafly.com. Please sign up for our newsletter, our Phyllis Schlafly report, our emails, and let's get the word out. Let's work together. Let's find ways to continue Phyllis Schlafly's legacy. Her life was an inspiration to so many, but her work wasn't done, and we have to keep doing it. Thanks for being here, and happy birthday to Phyllis Schlafly.